Jerusalem didn't fall when its walls were breached. It fell long before that. It fell when hunger erased all shame, when parents started hiding food from their own children, and when neighbors killed neighbors just for a few crumbs. Outside the city walls, the Roman army waited. But inside, something far, far worse was already unfolding. By the time the first Roman soldier stepped foot inside Jerusalem, the city was already dead. Not from swords, but from starvation. And once hunger takes control, there is no turning back. In the year 70 AD, Jerusalem stood completely surrounded. Rome had come to crush the Judean rebellion, and Jerusalem was the final prize. This city was sacred, politically dangerous, and spiritually defiant. Its people believed it could not fall. The walls were thick, the population was vast, and their faith was absolute. Hundreds of thousands of people were trapped inside, pilgrims, families, and fighters. But Rome didn't attack. Instead, it built a wall around the city and waited. Because Rome understood a truth much older than war itself. Walls keep enemies out, but they also lock hunger in. And hunger is more patient than any army. At first, life inside the city tried to continue. Markets stayed open, bread was rationed, and hope, somehow, survived. Then, the weeks turned into months. Rome burned all the surrounding farms, destroyed nearby villages, and cut off every single supply route. Nothing could get into Jerusalem. Inside the walls, a quiet panic began to spread. The grain stores emptied, food prices exploded, simple arguments turned violent. Then, the factions inside Jerusalem turned on each other. Rival groups fought for control of a dying city, while Rome just watched from the hills. In a fit of madness, they burned each other's food stores. On purpose, they truly believed God would intervene, that faith alone would save them. But faith had replaced strategy, and hunger was sharpening its teeth. The city was starving itself, and still tearing itself apart. As the starvation deepened, Jerusalem transformed. People stopped walking upright. They crawled. Children stopped crying. They were simply too weak. Bodies lined the streets, left exactly where they fell. Those lucky enough to have food hid it like treasure. Those without it hunted for it like predators. Homes were searched, families interrogated. Anyone even suspected of hiding a handful of grain was tortured. Roman witnesses later wrote down what they saw. People chewing leather from their sandals, gnawing on belts, scraping dust from the ground, hoping to find a single seed. Then, the city crossed a final, horrifying line. A mother, driven completely mad by hunger, killed her own infant child. She roasted the body. When others came to her home, smelling food and ready to steal it, she revealed what she had done. Even the most hardened soldiers recoiled in horror when they heard the story. This wasn't a myth. This was starvation's final, ugliest form. Jerusalem was still standing, but whatever made it human was gone. There was nothing left to defend. Only then did Rome advance, not because Jerusalem was strong, but because it was already finished. Roman battering rams struck against weakened walls. The resistance they met was almost non-existent. Defenders simply collapsed where they stood. When Roman soldiers finally entered the city, they didn't find an enemy army. They found a grave. Entire neighborhoods were filled with corpses. Homes were stacked with the dead. The few survivors were too weak to even flee. The great temple became the final refuge. Then it burned. Flames consumed the sacred structure, melting its gold plating into the stone. The priests died at the altar. The city screamed one last time, and then fell silent forever. Jerusalem did not fall to Rome. It collapsed from within long before Rome arrived. After the siege, the city barely existed. Hundreds of thousands were dead. Tens of thousands more were enslaved and paraded through Rome as trophies. The temple was gone. The city was flattened. The Great Rebellion was over. But something much deeper had ended. Judaism itself was forced to transform, with no temple, no holy city, no center. All because Rome chose starvation instead of assault. Jerusalem didn't lose because it lacked courage. It lost because hunger destroys everything. Faith becomes desperation. Community becomes suspicion. Love becomes a primal instinct to survive. Rome understood this. Empires don't always conquer with overwhelming force. Sometimes they simply wait. Because starvation does what armies cannot. It makes people betray everything they believe in. The siege of Jerusalem wasn't Rome's greatest battle. It was its quietest, most devastating victory. A city consumed from within. And once hunger wins, there's nothing left to save.